Good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Blake, Digital Marketing Team Lead at Angus Media. And tonight I'm excited to welcome you to the second webinar brought to you by Angus University called Marketing Madness. I think we all can agree that March definitely has been full of madness, but tonight Brett Spader, President of Angus Media, will be here to talk about marketing campaigns, why and how to tell your story, the strengths and weaknesses of each media type, as well as how to analyze your marketing efforts for future planning. We will also be sharing some information from our two most recent customer surveys from both a breeder and commercial producer perspective. So stay tuned for that. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, feel free to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. You can just click Q&A, type in the chat box, and press send, and we will compile those throughout the webinar. Awesome. So with that, I'll kick it over to Brett.
All right. Thanks, Alex. Yeah. Well, welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have you here tonight. And like Alex said, we've certainly been through a lot of challenges in the last few weeks. And so it's great to have you here with us. You know, for us, we're so proud and excited to continue to work with Angus breeders all across the country. And we know that there's no more noble profession than feeding the world. And we know that even though many things are a bit uncertain in the world right now, we know the demand for high quality beef will not go away, and we know that Angus breeders are best posed to provide the genetics to serve the industry. And so today we're excited to bring some information that we work with customers on a regular basis with, and we want you to know that whether it's the regional managers or anyone at Angus Media, we're truly here as your resource for all things marketing. We love to talk about Angus cattle. We love to learn more about your program. And above all else, we love to learn more about you and arming you to do a better job of telling your story. You know, things at Angus Media are a bit unique in that when we build successful customers as an extension of the American Angus Association, it's good for the long-term impact on the breed. And of course, it's great to build customer relationships, which will carry on for generations. And so having said that, we're so pleased to bring you this information tonight. Certainly hope that you bring some questions to us through Alex at the end. And until then, we'll get started on the slides. And so the title of this was mostly to talk a bit about one of the most common questions that we get at Angus Media. How do you use print, digital, and social media? And we recognize that there's many, many options when it comes to promoting your program. And they're as varied and unique as the operations that we serve every day. And so you can't really do a great job of understanding the best plan or the best approach to take until you know more about some of the marketing fundamentals that we'll talk about. If you were part of a session that I did at the Angus Convention last fall, some of these early slides will be a bit of a recap. But in order to really frame up this discussion, in order to really understand what it is that we do at Angus Media and how we can help you create the best version of your marketing communications plans, we do have to start with some basics. And so we're going to talk a little bit about telling your story as an Angus breeder. We're going to talk then about marketing balance and then ultimately how we use analytics to judge the job that we've done. And so again, as I said, Angus Media is here to serve you. What's really unique about Angus Media is every single service that we offer is in direct response to a need that a breeder had, just like you at some point along the way. So everything we do, from web services to print services, certainly the Journal, 100 years strong now, and the Angus Beef Bulletin, all these things are there on your behalf to better arm you to go reach your audience. And again, a strong customer for you and a strong customer for us means better things for the Angus breed moving ahead. So one of the key aspects of really beginning this conversation about better understanding your marketing and better understanding the communications efforts that you put out there into the world, the first stop is to really understand your identity. And as we start to think about some of the things that go into better understanding that, I think it's pretty easy for all of us to say, well, we're an Angus breeder. We want to create the best genetics possible for this beef industry. We want to serve our customers. But it's important to really take a critical look as the first step in this program. Really understanding your history, your breeding philosophies, certainly the way that you approach the market, and truly understanding what it is that makes you unique. This is your heartbeat. This is what gets you out of bed to feed cattle every morning. This is something that is so important to you and so important to your goals that you cannot help but scream it from the rooftops every time you talk to a customer. And that's a very, very important foundation to begin with. One of the next big attributes that goes hand in hand with understanding what it is about your operation that's unique and what your brand identity is also understanding your competitive advantages. And so what is it that enables a producer to come to you and invest their hard-earned dollars in a breeding program that you've put together, in the genetics and the cattle that you've put out there into the world? It's very important to understand what it is that you offer the marketplace and how you differentiate yourself from your customers, or excuse me, from your competitors, to be able to better understand how you're going to frame up your marketing and communications efforts. And a lot of times we think about that, we think about what's our competitive advantage against other Angus breeders. But the reality is, in 2020, it's not just other Angus breeders that we're competing against. We're competing against seed stock producers with other breeds. We're also competing on a daily basis with other investments that customers make. And so it's so very important for you to be able to clearly and quickly articulate why it is you do what you do, and let that be the basis for all the things that you're going to put out there in terms of your marketing efforts. The next stop in considering your marketing planning or your communications planning is to truly understand your audience. Now, that audience is absolutely all the people that you hope will buy cattle from you, both past customers as well as future potential customers. Where do they live? How do we access them? What's their age range? All these things have a direct impact on the ad messaging that you put out there, as well as better understanding how to reach those people. When you think through who it is you're trying to reach, it makes things so much easier, especially when you have a deep, deep understanding of what their goals and their operations are. And with that firm foundation, you can build upon your own goals and how to best reach those people. And so as we continue to talk about telling your story, and we continue to think about that target audience, we definitely want to know also, in addition to where they are in proximity to you, as it pertains to how you're going to make investments in advertising and communications, we also want to know how they want to receive information. We're going to talk about that in great detail today, obviously. And we want to recognize that there's an old salesman's trick that you definitely want to be able to reach people 4 to 6 times with your ad messaging. And if it is the right target audience, and if it is the right ad messaging, and of course we know it's a great product, it oftentimes takes that many direct touch points in a variety of ways to pull them in deeper to what it is you do and why they should come and do business with you. And so as we start to kind of wrap that up and we start to think about those competitive advantages, they parlay really nicely into your messaging. You know, in a lot of cases, we have conversations with advertisers and they say, you know, I've been doing the same thing for a long time. I wonder if I should do something just a bit different. Well, in some cases, that's absolutely the case, and it's great to be open-minded. But in some cases, it's also a matter of better crafting the message that you're putting out to the audience. Again, with the previous slides, those will help guide you into better understanding the audience and better moving them to learn more about your operation. One of the key aspects of message crafting, and as you think about the messaging that you put out there, that you truly invest in, is to make it clear, concise, consistent, and simple. It needs to be very memorable, and it needs to be easy to recall. And so this really comes back to that inner heartbeat of what it is that you do and how you can convey that through the power of advertising. And then again, like so many great operations have built their communications and marketing plans on, it's so very important to understand that target audience and align what you have as a means of solving a problem or as a means of satisfying a customer need that they have. That's how you begin a relationship between a buyer and seller and how you build upon that over time to make it a long-standing operation. And so once we've stated our identity and that we have that absolutely bulletproof, and once we have a deep understanding of our audience And we know that we need to reach our audience in a variety of ways, which we'll talk more about. And we know that we've done a great job in terms of better understanding how to clearly communicate our message. It's important to take a big step back and a very critical look to realize that this is a year-long effort. And so I know a few people had some questions as to, well, why are you doing a marketing webinar here at the very end of March? Well, this is the perfect time to start planning for 2021. And we truly believe that it is a year-long effort in everything that we work with you to do to recruit new customers. And so I just put together a real basic pathway of a variety of touch points that will start to lure people in to help them better understand your messaging. And we start to think about that literally the day after your sale day in 2019. We start to think about how we're going to plan this pathway so that we reach people in the ways they want to be reached, and we reach them multiple times. And we're always delivering that clear and consistent message of the value that your operation brings. And so it is truly a year-long communications and marketing effort. And to do it really, really well, it needs to be a multi-year process. And so in cases like this, when we start to really take a look at this pathway and we take a look at the deeper level understanding, it takes quite a lot to go from today to a sale next year. But taking the time to think through that plan, to create a plan based on the knowledge that you have of the industry, the knowledge of your own genetics and how you'll reach people, pays off with huge dividends in the long run. And so we just finished up some really interesting marketing research, and we targeted two distinctive groups. One would be Angus breeders, as we look at them, mostly meaning that for those of us that are selling frozen genetics, those of us that are selling females, in some cases herd sires into other seed stock operations, that is a very unique market. And then the other aspect, which we'll talk about on the next slide, is more of the commercial operation bull buyer aspect. And so a lot of times we get the question, well, where do I even start? And there's an easy line to draw there, and that is, who do you want to promote to? Are you selling bulls? And if that's the case, 95% of them deserve that commercial cow-calf operator audience. If you're selling frozen semen, registered females, and things of that nature, it's important to understand how breeders will react to the messaging and how they'll like to process information. And so one of the key takeaways I think tonight to share with you, which we found really, really interesting here, and we'll go through a few of these bullet points briefly. And I just want everyone to know, I know this is kind of small type. We certainly are glad that you're joining us this evening, but this is just the starting conversation between our staff, our regional managers, our staff at Angus Media, and you as an advertiser and a customer and a client. And so we'll be happy to go into greater detail, creating a specialized plan for you. But as we start to look at what's really important for breeders and how they receive information, this I thought was really fascinating. And as someone who's sold print advertising in the past as well as digital advertising, I didn't come in with any preconceived notions. But we did ask, what is the way that you prefer to receive your beef industry news and information? Now you'll see that the percentages add up to more than 100, obviously. And we did that because we recognize that an integrated marketing plan is very important. Again, those multiple touch points, giving people information in the form that they want to bring them in and educate them about our program. But the fascinating thing for me, and again, knowing that this is always evolving and changing, and that's why we do market research just like this. But today, as an Angus breeder in 2020 in the United States, 94% used and preferred to receive industry information through print publications. I felt that was really remarkably high. I know that as many of us have utilized more digital and social media aspects, it just calls out that print is still a very, very vital thing in what we provide. As we look at some of the other aspects in terms of television, internet-specific web searches, and certainly social media, they start to round out that approach that we take, but certainly print still very much reigns supreme. As we then look at that bull buyer mix, again, print was still very, very strong. with a little less influence, even so more than digital with the bull buyers than the breeders had. And again, I think that probably makes sense. As we talk to those that buy bulls, in many cases, we don't always get into folks that are looking to digital aspects for beef industry information. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't use digital aspects. That means that today, in today's world, they're not using them from a beef industry education or shopping experience standpoint. And so that really brings us around to better understanding what an integrated package means. And as we use print and digital and social and balance those, we have an opportunity to overlap them using their strengths and overcoming the weaknesses that each of them has to offer to create a strong marketing plan. And so a lot of times within our staff, we talk about a three-leg stool, one with print, social, and digital aspects. And we know that different people process information very differently. And we know they want to be reached in a variety of ways. But at the end of the day, what we have to offer you is the Angus audience. And we want to be able to guide buyers through this journey of information and utilize these different aspects to reach everyone in the means that they'd like to be reached. And so when we think about that stool, and we think about cutting one of these legs in half, or even taking one completely out, that you can know what's going to happen to that stool. And so that's a really great metaphor for what we look at in terms of balancing these different features of the different media types. And so I'm going to go through some of the strengths and weaknesses as well as how we build some strategy around utilizing those three different types. And I do want to say these are just the beginning recommendations. And so every operation is unique. A lot of it, again, falls back on who you want to reach, what you're selling, and how you want to reach them. And so every plan should be customized, and we're happy to help you do that. But some of the strengths that come along with print are certainly the ability to resurface. If you think of it this way, if your truck is like mine, there's an Angus Journal beating around in there for a few months. In some cases, there's sale books that are in there for a few months, and it gives you this great opportunity to pick back up where you left off. And to the same effect, you've got a longer shelf life with print. We know that they sit in homes a little longer than digital and social does. And so we've got this captive audience that's a longer time frame, so our research indicates, to be able to continue to share your message over time. We also know that recall is stronger with print. And so when you're thinking about investing your time, which is probably the most important thing you can invest here, as well as the resources, print still offers a lot of opportunities for us in doing what we're ultimately trying to do, which is touch someone multiple times to make a memorable connection with them as a potential customer. We know that print, especially Angus Media print, instills a lot of loyalty. And that's the very model that the Angus Journal has been built on. We're going to deliver great information, news and information that you want and need, and then we're going to pair that with great advertisers of equal caliber. I know that we talk a lot about the different age demographics, and a lot of folks say, well, there's going to be a time in the next 5 to 10 years when millennials are really entering their peak buying time. And it's really interesting to see some research that indicates that millennials in many cases crave the authenticity that is imparted by print, especially through things like the Angus Beef Bulletin and the Angus Journal. And again, you have this great opportunity to not only resurface your ad message, but allow people to really study it at a deep level. And so we have that time, more time spent viewing, and it gives you more opportunity to reach those people over and over and over again. And I always say, kind of a fun example of this is when you're getting married, a lot of times you send the save the date out via email or you send it out via social media. But when you send a wedding invitation, you send it as a direct mail piece. And that is why print, and that's where print really shines, is to be able to request their physical presence, a la come to a sale, and provide a better, more memorable sensory experience. Now, we all recognize there's some definite weaknesses with print. It's a higher cost per person reached. It's very difficult to take a look at that and say, boy, do I really need to make this investment? And I think a big part of that comes back to better understanding your ad messaging. And so in some cases, it may not be the targeted vehicle that you have that's necessarily something that needs to be tweaked. It may just be the way that we're communicating what we have to offer through something like print. It is difficult to target viewers in the grand scheme of life with print. We don't always know who gets it. We don't always know who reads it. The good thing about what we have here at Angus Media is we have two different print vehicles. One which is purely targeted in terms of editorial and advertising to that commercial audience, that cow-calf operator bull buyer audience. And so your ad messaging should reflect that. What's really important to that audience, and what is the reason why they should come support your program? And then, of course, we have an Angus breeder audience in the Angus Journal, which you're no stranger to. And so when you allow your ad messaging to target those audiences, if that is what you're marketing to, it gives you a great opportunity through Angus Media to better target those viewers. It's very hard to analyze results with print, and that's where we like to pair print with digital. And so the way we do that is real specific call-outs, and we bring them into a digital environment to provide more information in a more interactive environment, and also to be able to better gauge what it is they're interested in and what our response from the print advertising is. One of the final things to throw out there is it does take a little longer to create print, and so it needs to be planned for, it needs to be prepared for, and it needs to be a part of a year-long effort to be able to put that in play early and better utilize it over a longer period of time, and then rely on later efforts to be digital and social media. A few quick facts that I thought were again interesting from the Angus Journal survey. 59% of Angus breeders surveyed read a good portion of the Angus Journal issues. 45% surveyed spend half to all their time reading the advertisements. And if you're like me, you probably kind of scan through there and your eyes drawn to the ads, especially those that are well done. And you've got this opportunity then at a later date to go back and read the stories. At least that's how I read it. And I think that's how many others do as well. One other key aspect there, in addition to this, when we think about print, the ability to resurface, one other great thing about print is in many cases, at least within our shop, 2.9 individuals on average read each issue of the Angus Journal according to those households surveyed. So just because we talk about 13,000 that we mail, in reality, that is multiple times what that 13,000 actually is in terms of actual buying reach. The final point I wanted to show there was that at least as of today, 49% surveyed visited an advertiser's website directly after reading a print advertisement for them in the journal. And that is just proof that there's a great opportunity to convert print into digital leads, but that 49% tells us that there's 51% that were not interested enough in an ad to necessarily pull them into that next step of that buyer pathway. And that's where we can all certainly work. As we look at the Angus Beef Bulletin, which again is the audience of the commercial cow-calf operators and the bull buyers that we look at, 88% surveyed learned about their upcoming sales to go visit through print publications. 36% surveyed had purchased 5 or more bulls in the last 3 years. And so even though we talk about how print is hard to analyze, it's hard to understand in some spots, we're really excited to be able to have this market research, which definitely shows us some of the power of print. And then the top 4 ways in which readers are likely to respond to an ad in the bulletin included requesting a printed sale book, either via phone call or email, visit a provided website, obviously call that producer, or attend the sale. And so the next thing that I want to talk briefly about is how we think about digital advertising. And digital advertising could be email blasts, they could be online videos, they could be ads on email newsletters. We have a wide variety of things that we utilize from an online aspect for digital advertising options. And one of the great values, again, is to provide an interactive element to how you tell your story. And so we capture their attention with a sustained presence in print, and we pull them in to learn more. We pull them in to watch a video about your breeding philosophies. We pull them in to see firsthand what the cattle in your program look like. And that brings them in as starting an educated pathway for them. And certainly with digital, one of the key aspects and strengths is the ability to be nimble. And so as we talk about analytics and we talk about the ability to change things, you've got a direct opportunity to change things based on analytics and what people want to see and what they're responding to. Again, we'll talk more about analytics later on and how it can help guide decisions. It is easier to reach large groups of producers very quickly, and it is a lower cost per person reached. It's also easier, as I mentioned before, to continue down this pathway. So once they do enter a website, once they do come to visit a sale book online, it's easy to directly connect them because they're already in the digital aspect. And so as Angus breeders and buyers of Angus genetics, we see this huge volume of traffic on Angus.org. There's 62 million page views across that website. Just a huge amount of traffic that comes through. And so we think about that, and we think about all the opportunity that lies there to target those people to our audience and to become our potential customers. But we want to think about certainly some of the other aspects which can create a challenge when we talk about digital advertising. We've got a shorter shelf life for that. They're in and out. And that's why it's so important that your messaging be premium. You know, whatever it is, it needs to really speak to people. And it needs to give them an opportunity to come in more, and it needs to ask them to come in and learn more. We know there's a bit less loyalty when it comes to digital aspects. We know there's a less of a chance for it to resurface. Very few people dig back through their deleted file in their email to pull up an email blast. A lot of times we've lost them at that point. And we know there's a shorter message recall. And so we have to use digital aspects in ways that are going to be quick hitting and supportive of longer term aspects and help to really connect the dots for people and then get out of the way. Ultimately, what our final goal is to get them to you on sale day or to get them to you to make a purchase. And so we need to recognize print for its strengths in order to quickly get the word out, in order to plug in and fill a gap, but then also recognize that running digital advertising early in the cycle is probably not going to do as much good as potentially running print. And so then a lot of people have questions, certainly this year and in past years, about how do you use social media? You know, I think everyone recognizes social media as being 5 miles wide and a 1/4 inch deep. And so there's a real opportunity to get lost, and there's an opportunity for you to lose customers on social media. But there's a lot of great upside to it as well. We know that there's lots of ways to do it at a very low cost or even free. We know that probably the greatest attribute of social media is its ability to be shared. And so as your past customers come in, you've got the opportunity for them to see a message, to approve of that, and to push that out to friends and other contacts in order for it to be shared and exponentially reach more people than you could ever believe. Again, that goes back to that core fundamental of creating an ad message that really resonates with potential customers. We've got some great opportunities for targeting, whether that's a geography aspect or an industry aspect or just an agriculture aspect. And we know that there's so many great ways to be interactive with social media. And I touched on it earlier, but peer review, as we start to think about subsequent generations, certainly millennials as they start to enter that peak buying phase that they're about to in the next 5 to 10 years, peer review is really key for those in that age demographic as a general rule. And no matter what the age is, being able for that customer testimonial or that customer share to acknowledge that this is the person that I choose to do business with is so pivotal for your success on social media. The other great thing about social media, they make analytics very easy. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that as we continue through the slides. One of the other challenges, or some of the sets of challenges with social, it requires constant monitoring and constant information being put out there. If you're not constantly making a plan around providing content and information, you have the opportunity to get lost in this huge world that's out there in terms of social media. We also know that it's a very short window of opportunity. So again, as you're scrolling through Facebook and you see a great video, you may only spend a couple seconds with it and you make the decision to click to learn more or just keep scrolling through. And so again, we have to bear that in mind as we're working on our plans. One other aspect which is still a little in flux, I know we've seen it a lot in the equine industry in the last year, animal sales are prohibited in spots, and so particularly with Facebook. Now we haven't seen that really hit us much in the beef cattle industry, but certainly it's really changed some of the group dynamics and some of the marketing plans that others have had in the equine realm. And it's just important to remember that, again, back to that three-legged stool, that there needs to be other aspects of your marketing and communications campaigns so that if something changes with something that's outside our reach and outside of our control, you've got other means of reaching customers. A couple really interesting things, again, this is evolving, this is changing every year, but 39% of breeder respondents and 62% of the bull buyer audience that responded did not use social media for beef industry information at all. And so there's a large segment out there that are still not using it. Now that doesn't mean that they maybe don't have accounts, they may just not be using it from a beef industry information aspect. So that's where we start to tie all these different pieces together to leverage their strengths and weaknesses against each other and put a plan in place which is going to be of the best influence for you. So this was another aspect in terms of the market research. Those that did use social media were very, very heavy with Facebook on the breeder aspect of the respondents that we had. Instagram was number 2, followed by Snapchat and Twitter. And so again, I think we probably see that as we talk to customers. They oftentimes use Facebook, but not so much some of the other platforms. This was very specific to the bull buyers operations, and that said that Facebook was still the dominant one, but Twitter and Instagram were a little bit lower. And so again, these are just important things to bear in mind as you're formulating your plan for what your social media needs to look like and how you can best utilize it. And so again, some of the key takeaway points as we're talking about social media, and we're again happy to spend more time with you on this in the one-on-one aspect, but it really needs to be a re-engagement tool. It really needs to focus on several of the other efforts that you have in play, and it needs to be able to remind people of what those different things are. This cuts down on the work for you as well. We like to use it also as an analysis tool. You can use those analytics to see which features that you have in your sale that people are going to really respond to, or which bloodlines, or what aspects really mean a lot. And that's particularly important as you look at shares and exponential reach of social media. That really helps you delve deeper into what people are looking for today. It's important to have a strong call to action. Never ever dead end a social media post. Always have an opportunity with one click for them to make a connection with you or to find more information out. And to do that, we direct them to other media. We bring them to your online videos. We bring them to your website to continue to tell your story. Being able to boost posts with targeting helps, again, refine that pathway that you're looking for to grab the people that you're really seeking and target them with keywords, whether it's boosted videos or boosted posts. And again, it gives you an opportunity to see what's most engaging for the people that follow your program, as well as those that are new to your offering as well. So one of the ways that we like to do that is we upload content directly into Facebook. And a lot of these aspects, which I'll cover here, will be pretty specific to Facebook, knowing that that is mostly what our breeders are currently using. Facebook Live is also a great way to provide that interactive element of telling your story and to really draw them in. But again, don't ever let that dead end there. Bring them in to learn more. Much like a website, you want to use social media to answer common questions. So if you get a question from someone via phone call or an email, don't be afraid to post that, because there's probably other people out there wondering the exact same thing. We use those call outs and we also cross post into other targeted groups, and there's several, whether they're geographically aligned with who you are, whether they're Angus specific or even just beef industry specific, but you've got this great opportunity to reach out into these other deep wells of people that potentially want to hear your message, and to use influencers and tag them in your posts in order to pull them back in on your buyer pathway. And then one other way that we've been utilizing and recommending a lot, creating a story for instant feedback and engagement. If you feel like things are dragging a little bit and you have the opportunity on Facebook to create that story for 24 hours, it gives you a quick hitting analytic look at what's working well and can pull people back in for more information. So one of the key aspects, once you kind of better understand this pathway that you want a buyer to potentially take to get to you, and once they come through, and even before they come through to make a purchase at your event, is to better understand analysis. And the first area that I want to talk about are surveys. This is a tried and true method. A customer satisfaction survey at the time of purchase or directly after can really be beneficial to help you better understand what was very important about what you conveyed that resulted in a satisfied customer and a lead turning into a customer. Digital surveys throughout the remainder of the year are also a great thing to just keep people in the loop, and so that you can better stay on track with what's going on and address any future concerns or future things that they'd like to have more information about. It's important to know that this is a great way to just ask them, and you don't even have to do an official survey. It's okay to just pick up the phone and call those guys and ask them how they want to receive the information, why they do business with you. This helps increase customer loyalty. This helps them understand that you think about them all throughout the year, just like we're talking about here today, not just when it's time to make a sale. One of the other aspects of analytics or analysis of what our efforts are certainly available through web traffic and our websites. And I'll expand that too to also talk about online sale books on angus.org. And so what analytics truly allow us to do is to really get to know our audience. And we've really trained people in a lot of ways to silently gather a lot of information about our breeding programs. A lot of times we will run a print ad and then we'll say, see the website for more information. And then we get frustrated because we don't get any phone calls. Well, the reality is you've got to take a step back and see what your call to action was. Did you ask them to go online and look at the sale catalog, to look at the videos? Did you ask them to go learn more about your breeding program? And if that's the case, you need to look at your website analytics. And when you have that opportunity, you can really drill into some areas of need, both in terms of the length of duration of a response that you get from all these different advertising types, as well as geography. And so there may be some underserved area that you didn't even realize in the United States that has a particular affinity for your breeding philosophies. They may be a few states away. And that allows you to really hone in on how you're going to invest your marketing dollars to better understand your target audience. And so we start with that target audience, and we use analytics to continue to expand in the right direction. One of my favorite things to say is, if you do a lot of things really well and you do your fundamentals well, it opens you up to take more chances and to try new things. And being able to understand what content and who is best responding to your sale offering allows you to go try new things, to go try other aspects of advertising, other aspects of social media, and to better hone in on who's responding to that message. So again, you can take a look at referrals, which basically just means how they get into your website. Did they do a search, like a Google search or a Yahoo search? Was it a direct click through from a link on another advertising method? Did they find opportunities in any form or fashion? How did they find you? And be able to understand how those best referrals came through allows you to better build strategies around how to go build more. And then the other great aspect is you can truly drill down and understand page by page how people are responding. And this is one of the first stops that we take when we look at analytics with a breeder's website. Where are they going? What path do they take through the website itself to get this information? And when you then identify the top performing pages, you can replicate whatever that is, extra interactive content, direct call to actions, whatever it may be. And you can expand that across all your pages that you have on your website. But conversely, you can look at maybe what's not performing very well, and you can decide if you even want to leave that page up on your website or concentrate on what people are really reacting to. And so being able to track that audience behavior, not only by where they visit, but how long they visit, that's a really key aspect. How much time they spend interacting with your website on that particular offering, on that particular page, is really key to understanding their behavior. When you think about an auction, it's really just a popularity contest in which people vote with their checkbooks. And so you've got this great opportunity, even before a sale, to get some understanding of how people are responding to the sale offering that you have and that you've presented, as well as how the advertising has gone to work for you. Then one of the key things that certainly we're talking about getting started and being in that vein here this year, but you can start to make small changes and then track those changes over time and track the growth and development of those analytics on your website to see the progress that you're going to make. If we didn't want to make progress, we wouldn't breed Angus cattle. And that level of genetic advancement needs to be matched by the communications advancement and the advertising advancement in order to directly connect those great genetics to your best customers for the future. And so I just wanted to take a couple minutes and I wanted to talk a little bit about online sale book analytics. And again, we look at website analytics for your website. If you need assistance in creating a website, that's a service we offer here. Of course, there's no such thing as a bad way to go get a website. There's all kinds of different things which are very customizable to what your offering is. But one of the really fascinating things for me that since I've started working here to really start to track was analysis of online sale books posted on Angus.org. Did you know that the sale books page on Angus.org gets more than 30 million page views every year? And so it's a great temperature check for the assessment of your brand recognition. And as this huge volume of people travels through here, and we know it's the right crowd, we know it's people with the right intention of coming here to buy Angus genetics, coming here to buy Angus cattle. And so we can use our sale book analytics to truly understand how well our advertising is working, how educated those people are about our program when they get to us, and how interested they are on a page-by-page basis of that sale book. You know, a lot of times we think about laying out a sale book and we think about it in a very traditional way. You know, we have our cover, our inside front cover with our information. We certainly have a welcome letter, we have reference sires, and we have cattle. And when we look at sale book analytics, it's really fascinating to see because we can track when they exit that document. And it's really interesting to stop and take a minute and see where most people leave that online sale book. And you can then go back and look at that sale book and say, what was so interesting to them up until that point, and where did I lose them? And so we want to be able to keep them engaged and keep them going. And so I pulled a couple fairly representative samples here. This first one generated 36,000 page views in 45 days. So again, that would be a pretty normal cycle from the time that we posted that book online at Angus.org, and then we led right up here to the secondary curve, which was sale day. And I just want to show a couple interesting things that I thought were pretty fascinating as I compared these analytics back to what they did from a marketing standpoint. In this case, you will see there's very much a novel feature to posting a new book on that Angus sale books page. And this is a little fascinating and a little terrifying at the same time. We literally had just a few days and we had our largest surge of traffic. And so we've got this very small window to make a huge impact on people as they're looking at our audience, as they're looking at our offering online. This is where tools like videos embedded in these online catalogs come into play. We're looking for these re-engagement tools to get them to fall in love with something here and continue to remind them throughout the rest of the 45 days to ultimately lead them to come here to make a purchase decision for us. As we look at this, and we see some of these small curves, I identified a couple key curves here, and this particular curve was email marketing as we tied that in. And so we saw, even though that email marketing didn't directly connect them back to this particular platform, there was a recognition of the email advertising that went out, and then when people saw that in the Angus Sale Books aspect, they remembered that brand and they engaged again. This is another really interesting thing. When I asked this particular client what happened on this date, they made a posting on social media about a really sought-after sire group and a set of heifers that were made available or would be made available in the sale. And so we saw this really nice response here, And that shows you what the opportunity is to continue to use social media and digital advertising to re-engage people as they come through this process. Now, some people might say, well, yeah, that looks really good, 36,000 page views in 45 days. That's a huge amount of interaction. That's a lot of people making a decision about my breeding program. The reality is, I would like to see this initial surge in a perfect world, and I'd like to see sale day surge much higher. And I'd like to see a steady trend up as we continue to re-engage with social media and as we continue to re-engage with digital aspects. That tells me not only are there new people always entering this sale book, learning more, that tells me people are building on the original traffic by re-engaging and coming back to continue to see more information on there. One other aspect, which we'll talk about on the next one, which is always interesting, is the day after the sale, a lot of times people think, well, my traffic will go straight to zero. And this is why we post sale reports in the online catalogs posted on angus.org. People know to come back to that catalog, and they have the opportunity to track high sellers and see some of the information about the market research that they've been doing, and then also look directly in that book to see what the pedigree was, what information or the video was on that animal that made it so special. And so the second graph that I have here is a stronger graph in terms of overall traffic. More than 279,000 views, again in 45 days, a huge amount of traffic to come through here. And again, we saw this huge spike, nearly 40,000 page views within a day of operations of that thing being posted. That in itself is worth gold. I mean, that is worth all the investments that we put into it. But again, even though that is a huge volume start, we still go back to this lowered trend line. And we still see some responses here from a digital standpoint, and we still see some response from a social media standpoint. But the reality is, we would like to lift this entire curve to at least half of what our initial spike was and continue to trend people on an upward level to bring them up here to what sale day is. And if you look here, this is what's really interesting. This particular sale, this was sale day, and they had nearly almost as many people visit to view the sale report as they did on sale day. And so again, we'd like to push that number up. We'd like to push the whole curve up. But even second, third, and fourth day, we still had people trickling in to look at that sale report. And so we got to bear in mind, again, this is a year-round effort. And this is why we talk about whatever we did this year as being the start of next year. And so I wanted to just go over a few other kind of interesting points that we pulled out of this market research. Again, these were respondents that came to us via direct mail, social media, as well as digital call-outs that we provided in these surveys, and again, targeting specifically a breeder audience versus a bull buyer audience. And I know that I got some questions on this and saying, well, the social numbers weren't very strong. Could it be just that not very many young people were utilizing it? And I absolutely see that that has been a bit of the trend here as we look at this 29.64% being 61 to 75, and then this 29% being 46 to 60 years of age. However, I feel like this is probably the most actionable set of people that are buying genetics today. Outside of some really specific markets such as show heifer markets and things along that line, when we talk about who it is that we're approaching today, that's a very actionable audience that we can go find that's very interested in making a purchase, this is still a really strong audience for who it is that we're trying to reach. When we look at that bull buyers aspect, again, we look at that 61 to 75 taking up an even larger aspect of the share, and again 46 to 60 really representing more than 75% or near 75% of our total audience. Does that mean that we want to only target these people in the future and the means that they want to be targeted? No, we want to continue to build and grow with these younger people, especially as they enter the buying times of their life and as they make more investments in agriculture. But as of today in 2020, this is an interesting concept to think about and how we really plan out that pathway for people and how we make it easier for them to better understand those different aspects. We asked for 2 primary sources of income, again, to just understand what it is that's going to really impact people. What message do we need to be delivering them as someone that's selling animals? And 52% had one of their 2 primary sources of income as raising cattle in terms of breeders. And so again, we think about that audience that we have to offer. We think about how it is that we need to tailor that message and what we need to speak to them in terms of that ad messaging and how we best do that. We also look at the 2 primary sources of income for the bull buying audience. And again, we see strong numbers there in terms of understanding that a lot of these aspects, these are people that are spending time in the beef industry, their whole livelihood, or at least a large significant part of it. And therefore our advertising and our communications plans are so very key to helping them understand that we understand what it is that they're looking for. Another aspect of the market research that we found interesting as we looked at the breeder audience, what was most important when it came to making a product or genetics purchase. And so again, this is kind of covering a couple different umbrellas here, but price or value is still very important to them. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that they want to buy cheap. That just means that they need to have that direct proposition in their mind that what they purchase from you is worth the dollar. And so again, that goes back to your ad messaging, and that goes back to really understanding what it is that's important to them and communicating that you have it and it's worth that investment from you. When we think about also brand name and popularity of understanding of reliability, that also ranked incredibly high, as did customer service. All those things factor in to these decisions that we help you make as an advertiser. And so, again, looking at a little bit more market research, why do you read the Angus Journal? And we talked about pairing print advertising with trusted editorial. One of the highest scoring aspects here was to keep up with industry news and events about the American Angus Association, as well as to gain greater understanding about the American Angus Association. And so we think about these different aspects and we think about people actively reading print, and we want to again play off of understanding why it is that they pick up and why they subscribe to this print publication, and then also give them the opportunity to pair that need with what it is that we offer. Conversely, if we look at what the Angus Beef Bulletin survey readership had to say, again, keeping up with current news and events about the industry and gaining better understanding of programs and opportunities made possible by the American Angus Association, both really created great opportunities from an advertising standpoint. In the last 12 months, what actions have you taken directly as a part of reading an advertisement in the Angus Journal? Again, made plans to attend a sale, visit an advertiser's website, purchase semen on bulls, again, remembering it's a breeder audience. Those ranked incredibly high. And so again, the whole point of what we've discussed tonight is just the means of helping connect these different pieces with a subsequent action that we ask a potential customer to take. Similar look there, and highest ranking there in terms of in the last 12 months, what have you done after reading an Angus Beef Bulletin ad? I made plans to attend a sale. I visited an advertiser's website. So again, great information for us to understand the pathway that these people want to take. And so the final slide that I wanted to share with you as we kind of wrap up this summary on different media types, how people use them, how we can create marketing plans around them, is to take a look at an overreaching question that we asked everyone and compiled the information. And we asked how many minutes per week did they utilize with each of these different sources of media information. With this column being, I spent 0 minutes per week interacting, at least from a beef industry information aspect. And so again, while social media has some great opportunities for us to build upon and grow upon, 43% of the aggregate said they spent 0 minutes on average per week in social media. That's a huge amount of people that we don't want to miss out on. Those are people we need to recruit via digital and via print, and then at some point make them an adopter of social media. Also with the print aspect, they were the champion here in terms of spending more than 30 minutes a week with marketing messages. Boy, that's a great option here, and bear in mind that that's just within a week that they spent more than 30 minutes with print. So take that times 4, and that's what you get every month. Again, we see websites being pretty well balanced, e-newsletters as well. Again, no secret there. We're delighted to be able to offer website information. We're delighted to be able to offer e-newsletters to bring this great industry information, as well as print and social media, and really understand how much time people spend, how they prefer to receive this information, and create opportunities for you to promote your program through this variety of methods. And so as we get Alex back up here to maybe pose some questions to us, I do want to directly call your attention to the fact that there's a dedicated staff of regional managers that have the opportunity to spend time at your farm or ranch to better understand your marketing needs. We are a resource here in the office. They, as regional managers, are as well. They're our boots on the ground, and they want to get to know your program better so they can help make recommendations as well as us. And so I know we've got some questions here to go through, and excited to see a few of those, but just want everyone to bear in mind that, again, we hit some top-level information today. We're delighted to drill down into more detail to help you better customize your efforts to get the most benefit for your advertising dollar invested. So, welcome back,
Awesome.
Alex.
Yeah.
Any great questions to share?
Yes, we do. And
Good.
Great job on the presentation.
Thank you.
That's a great information. We definitely have a lot of good questions submitted by the audience, so we'll go ahead and start reading some of those. So how does this planning differ if you have multiple sales throughout the year?
Oh, it's a good question. So when we think about having multiple sales, and it may not even be multiple sales throughout the year, you may just have multiple offerings. You may sell most of your bulls through a spring bull sale, and you may have some private treaty bulls there in the fall. Or perhaps you're looking for more ways to create more revenue for your operation, and so you open up the door to sell some replacement females or something like that in the off-season to create some off-season income. I think that the key takeaway with that is no matter how many actionable points that you're requesting someone to take with you, you have to sit down and plan this out a full year in advance. There's no harm in running two different plans that feed off of each other and coincide and kind of co-op off of each other, but you really have to sit down and take a critical view of how people are going to find information about you, how you can continue to reach out to them. And I make it as simple as the family calendar in the kitchen, and marking down key dates, marking down key actions to be taken so that they're top of mind for everyone as they go through that process. But truly sitting down right now to think about things as they unfold over the next year and subsequent years, that's the best way to start to think about it, no matter how many times you're asking someone to come make an investment with you.
Good. Awesome. So let's see. How does a situation like COVID-19 change marketing plans?
That's a good question. It's really been a fascinating thing to watch this all unfold, terrifying for those of us that certainly have those that have health concerns at home. And we have seen a really strong presence of digital, certainly, here in the last 2 weeks. And I've been so proud of Angus breeders to be able to offer multiple options for people to interact and engage in whatever manner they feel safe to make a purchase in these bull sales, and certainly use regional managers also, again, as their eyes on these offerings and to help facilitate those purchases. But it really has opened up the door for a lot of options with digital. We've seen that ourselves. We've seen we've seen a good number of postponements. And so digital, again, gives you that nimble opportunity to get the word out quickly and to do it within a day or two of when you conceptualize that you're going to make a change. And so digital and social have been really key this year, as well as videos. You know, we think about videos and we think about the opportunity to go through a sale offering and to do that all from the comfort of your home. that's a great option for someone that's trying to make a decision, particularly around a bull sale during this kind of heightened sense of awareness time. Now, having said all that, as you build your brand and all these things that we talk about over time, that was the first starting point. And so as we see these bull sales, which have had a great amount of success, again, they've done a lot of things well for a long time. And so we can't expect digital to completely make up for a long history of great promotion and communications, but certainly it's been a big help in the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely. So another good question, how does a small producer, 25-30 cows market private treaty sales?
Oh, good question. You know, I would want to take a little extra time with you, and I would welcome some time on the phone with you, because a lot of that's going to be dependent on, did it say specifically if it was females or bulls?
It said sell a limited number of cows or bulls per year, maybe
Okay.
7 or 8 animals.
So maybe both. And so that's what's really neat about Angus Media. We've got a lot of different opportunities at a variety of reach and frequency and price points. And so I'd really want to better understand, and this is a key question that comes up with almost everyone that we talk to. And my first question is, all right, what constitutes a successful day for you? What is it we're really trying to do? Are we trying to recruit more buyers? Are we trying to get existing customers to invest more through an auction scenario? Are we trying to work with a producer of any size to build that audience, help people understand what it is that they have to offer, and help them reach out then through that aspect? And so I will defer that and say I probably can't get into anything very targeted until I know quite a bit more about what it is they're offering, what is really key aspects of that breeding program, and then who it is that they want to reach. And then from there, we'll help you create a customized aspect to go reach those people.
Yeah, awesome. And then this actually kind of answers another question we had, which do you offer packages through Angus Media that will combine print, digital, and then even social media?
We do, absolutely. And so obviously we practice what we preach. And so we've got several different options. Certainly Alex and her team do a fantastic job of integrating those aspects of digital. We also have great print resources, direct mail resources in terms of postcards and catalogs. And again, we and your regional manager both would love to sit down and create a campaign that's solely and uniquely built around what it is that's going to make you successful and what will make you happy and sustainable for success in the future.
Awesome. Let's see. And can private treaty sale books be created? If so, how is that strategy different?
Yeah, we've had some impromptu private treaty books created. Unfortunately, with all the COVID madness, I shouldn't say unfortunately, I mean, there were some cases where we had some folks that were unfortunately lost their sale facility. And boy, you talk about just a gut-wrenching thing to come up right on sale time and have that rug pulled out from under you. And so what we've done with those is specifically tweaked that online sale book to let people know that the cattle would be made available private treaty, and again, how they would go about interacting with those customers. And then utilize some digital in most cases, or in some cases a quick postcard, to let people know that there was a little variance in how that interaction would be. But even if it's just a standalone private treaty aspect, there's great opportunities for you to promote your breeding program and your offering and to be able to post that. You don't even have to necessarily print the sale books. You can just post those on angus.org in the private treaty area. People can flip through, they can look at videos. You've got all these great opportunities to harness the ultimate power of all those dedicated Angus buyers coming through there, and you don't have to print the first book if you don't want to. So, very valuable tool for those of us that sell private treaty.
Awesome. And does Angus Media manage any SEO or SEM, target marketing, geofencing, Facebook marketing combined?
Well, that's a pretty good question for you, isn't it?
Yeah, that is. We currently do have, like Brett mentioned, 310 websites that are managed through our website department. I don't know specifically if they are doing SEO or SEM for those websites, but I do believe that they are. I'm pretty sure. And then we also, from the digital advertising department, we do have some targeted remarketing and geofencing opportunities available. So it kind of depends, like Brett mentioned earlier, what your goals are, and we can usually put together a good customized plan for what you're looking for to that target audience and within your budget. So yeah, you can probably reach out to me on any of that. So, yep. And then let's see. So who do we contact to get the analytics report for our specific catalog? And I know that somebody else had asked
Good question.
if it's extra money to get their analytics from their catalog, and of course it's not.
It's not. It's just one more benefit to doing business with Angus Association and
Yeah.
us at Angus Media. And so you can reach out directly to our web services department and ask for anyone in that web services department and just provide the time frame that you'd like to look at there, as well as, of course, the client's name, and they'll be happy to generate that report. Now, having said that, I would love it if you give me a call when you get that, because in some cases, Google Analytics can be a little daunting for cowboys, and it took me years,
Yeah.
you probably not so much, but it took me a long time to really understand what all those metrics meant. I mean, it's just so much information, but it's very powerful. And so we would really want to sit down when you have an opportunity and go over that information and help you glean the most from it.
Yes, absolutely. It is fun to look at those whenever you're comparing them to the different marketing efforts that you had throughout the year, along with your website analytics too. Let's see. So do you have any market research about the media mix for semen buyers?
You know, I don't know that we have anything really specific to those that purchase frozen semen or any frozen genetics. I don't know that you can necessarily even say one way or the other, but what was interesting, of course, with that earlier slide was over 50% of the breeder audience made investments after seeing a print advertisement. And so I do feel comfortable saying that that's a really strong audience, and that makes sense. Obviously, people subscribe to the Angus Journal to get information about what's going on in the industry, and believe it or not, for most of us, the most important information in a lot of cases is what next great bull to use. And so I think that even though we don't have anything really specific to like an audience survey around different types of ads and things like that, I feel comfortable in saying that that's a great audience from an advertising and marketing standpoint. And I think you could probably pull some trends out of some of the additional breeder survey information and just know that a large volume of these people were making decisions about frozen semen and what next great sires to use, and allow that to better understand what it is that you want to advertise.
Yes, great. What is the optimum sale size to merit a multimedia advertising plan?
Oh, one head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think this is something that's been a real passion for us at Angus Media. When we bring a new person into the Angus business, within a year they have a product to sell. And that's where we step in. And I know that that's really hard to build that momentum and to build that budget around something that you may not have even sold an animal before. But again, that's why we're here as a resource. And so we do have some interesting new tools which will be coming out this summer. Don't want to give anything away, but look for those this summer, which will provide even more opportunities for people to promote smaller groups of animals, and to do so particularly in a digital sense. That'll be really fascinating, and I think will give a great entry point for people as they build and grow their operation, because we know that when we help you find success in marketing your cattle, you're going to be like me. You can't help it. You're going to want to go make more cows. You're going to want to buy more cows, and that makes you a stronger Angus breeder, and that's great for the breed. And so we'd love to hear from you, even if you've only got one head to sell. I think that probably brings up another question, and this is where a regional manager can definitely weigh in as well. But how do you know, we talked a lot about marketing mix. We didn't necessarily talk about what percentage of advertising to invest. And so again, that is a varied question which requires a few more questions on our part. But you know, it really begins with kind of an understanding of what your idea of success is, what you'd like to get for the animals. And then we work with you to be able to kind of hone in on what an acceptable amount of investment is, and then how we distribute that investment to get the most results possible.
Awesome. And for a first-time production sale, when is the best time before the sale to start print advertising?
That's a really good question. You know, for me, well, a lot of times we do see there's a bit of a limiting factor in there, especially for a first-time production sale, because the cattle may not be ready to photograph, they may not be ready to video, especially if they're yearling cattle, until you're a little later into the cycle. And so that's where you would look at print advertising, and you'd still want to use print for what it's good for. You'd want to use print to get out there early, to work on your behalf over time, but that does create a challenge because you may not just be putting pictures of the sale features up. And so that's the time to really think about what it is that you're doing different and unique, whether it's customer service, the breeding philosophies you have, whatever aspect that is. And again, we're happy to work through that with people. But for me, a lot of times, and a little bit of this is dependent on who we're targeting, because we're fortunate with the Angus Journal, we have a monthly publication, and you could get an ad out 2, 3, 4 months prior, especially for a first-time venture. But with the Beef Bulletin, which goes to everyone that's purchased an Angus bull in the last 3 years, huge list of 64,000 producers actively buying Angus bulls. We do only offer that 5 times a year during peak sale seasons. So we're a bit more limited on when we can get that ad out in relation to the sale. But as a general rule, I would definitely be working to have my printout somewhere between, for sure, 30 days, but I'd really like 2 or 3 months out, maybe even a 4th month out.
Yeah, awesome. And then another one, how far in advance should you plan a geofencing strategy?
Sounds like is that a question from you to me, or is that for you?
No, I think that I can answer this one.
Yeah.
But so from a digital advertising perspective, if you are looking at geofencing, a lot of digital advertising can be implemented quickly, but it is important just to start thinking probably a month or 2 in advance to when you would want to start about your messaging, your call to action, and just start brainstorming those ideas so that whenever it is time to start building those ads, which I would say if you were doing a campaign like that with us, that 5 weeks, 4 weeks out, just so we can start building the ads and make sure everything is approved in time to go live and that we have plenty of time. But most of those campaigns we do get, well, we haven't really done very many from a breeder's perspective, but it is important to wait until you have all the photos and all the videos, so those can be done within a few days too, even. So kind of depends, I guess, on your time frame. But more time the better, but those can be implemented quickly.
I think it really depends too on how it fits in with your overall scheme. I think that's probably another important part. One of the great things about the digital advertising, it gives us that last push. There's probably other means of using it earlier if you want to explore that, but as a general rule, we're using it as that re-engagement, that reminder, and so in that later time frame for sure.
Yes, absolutely. When will the catalog portal be available?
Good question. So we've been using that in-house, and we've been testing it very diligently, and we've been so pleased with how that appears and how that's working. We are still on track to launch that in May. And so what we did is we found out more what a great project it's been. We found more and more needs as we started to develop it. And so all of a sudden now it touches every corner of Angus Media. And it's really a fascinating software that we're so excited to bring to you. And so we'll be able to start with some online demos as we get on into the summer. But yes, we are still sticking to that May launch in terms of allowing breeders to better understand how it can benefit their operation.
Yes, very exciting. Is there a rule of thumb for % of gross sales that should be dedicated to marketing?
Good question. And again, not to provide a cop-out, but that is a decision that really needs to be made when understanding what the overall proposed budget that you're going to work within needs to be a bit reflective of what your anticipation of what the sale gross is. And a little bit of it depends on how much reach you want from a geographic radius aspect if this is a brand that we're promoting nationwide versus a brand, for example, with a bull sale where we hope to sell 90% of our offering within 100 miles. And so those parts and pieces do all play a factor. But one interesting thing that I always say, you know, when you think about taking cattle to an auction market, commercial cattle, feeder cattle, and you pay a 4 or 5% commission to sell them there. And I always tell that to breeders, what we have to offer you is essentially the same thing in creating an audience and a proven buying audience for what it is that you offer, but we have more of a premium offering. And so the ads that you see for a Hyundai are a little different than the ones for a Cadillac. And so when you think about what that extra expense that may go into advertising is, it's just kind of a bit of a balancing act that I think that we're happy to work with different customers at different levels in. And so I would say that again, depends a bit on if you have multiple consigners with a consignment sale, if you are the only consigner, if you're selling 30 head or 200 head, they all kind of impact that percentage. So it's really hard to give an exact answer. But again, we're happy to take the time to get to know your operation better and to make some recommendations. And we want it to be something that is going to be real sustainable over time. And that brings up another aspect. If it's a new operation, just like if it's a new company, a lot of times we recommend spending a little higher percentage because we're trying to build brand awareness. And we're trying to build brand awareness through multiple touch points. And subsequently, even though you can be smart with your money and your advertising invested, you do need to invest a little bit more as a general rule to help people really understand who you are and what you're trying to do. Whereas some of those of us that have been in business for 30 years have a very established customer base, and a lot of what we do from a communication standpoint is about re-engaging them and reminding them to come make another purchase from us.
Yeah, awesome. Yes, that is great. It's great to be able to customize those campaigns and tailor them to anyone's needs. Well, we do have some more questions, but we are running out of time. So if we did not get your question answered, feel free to contact one of the RMs, as Brett mentioned, or contact Angus Media directly. We are happy to answer any of those questions that you have. So on behalf of the staff at Angus Media and Angus University, we definitely thank you for joining us tonight. We are excited to announce the next webinar, which is Foot Scoring, What Does It Mean for My Herd, which will be held on April 28th. And we hope you will join us for that one. After we finish, hang tight. Your browser will automatically redirect to a survey, so feel free to give us some of your feedback on how tonight went and suggest future topics. We would love to hear your feedback. There will be a full recording of this webinar available online at angus.org, so feel free to check that out and share with anyone that you think would be interested in this topic. And thanks, Brett, for a great presentation. And yeah, once again, Kelly Redelick will present on Foot Scoring, What Does It Mean for My Herd on April 28th. So look forward to news on that information.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.